In October of 2019, I added a solar panel to the top of my van. At the time, it was just charging my 200-watt Maxoak Blue Eddy power station. In November of 2019, I upgraded to adding a charge controller and 2 100 amp hour Mighty Max batteries. Alright, YouTube, we are out in our favorite parking lot. As you can see, there's actually an RV over there. But anyway, favorite parking lot. And I am going to be cutting down some wood I got for free, which is right here on the ground. And that wood is for my solar project, for which I have this bin of things. So that's all the cables and stuff I bought for. It's literally everything I think I need but the battery, including some stuff I might return, but I'd rather buy it, just have it, and then return the stuff I don't use for a refund. Right? But what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to build something to hold the solar controller. So it's basically going to attach to here. And so from the inside I'll be able to see it. So once I finished making my little back plate, it was time to place the charge controller in place, or at least figure out where I wanted it placed and position. I also wanted the battery monitor to be up beside the charge controller. This ultimately didn't work out for multiple reasons, but that's not a story for this time. This is just to show you sort of how you can experiment with laying things out once you have whatever you're going to attach your charge controller to. Now, some people may have little closets or something in their van or very specific areas. I've also seen people leave their charge controllers loose, but I definitely wanted mine attached to something. At one point, I was also going to inset the 12-volt ports into the top of this piece of wood. It ultimately didn't work out, but this is a point where I'm experimenting. As you can see, I changed my mind along the way, draw some new lines. This is why it is important to use pencil, because you can erase pencil. I also like that this wood was already painted white, just because it gave me a really good guide surface to work with. Flexibility when you don't know what you're doing is invaluable. So yeah, give yourself space to like mess up if you're doing it the first time. By the way, I was in the Home Depot parking lot working on this literally from daylight to sundown, and nobody asked me to leave, and nobody, did anything but perhaps stare a little as they walked past me. So you can do this kind of work in a Home Depot parking lot. Like, I know a lot of people like having their yards where they can have it all done, and I certainly understand that, but once you get out there, if you need to do work and you need to do it in a parking lot, then you do it. And you'll be surprised how many people will stare, but pretty much leave you alone. Okay, so this is the basic setup for the charge controller. So basically goes this way. This is what I'm going to attach to the back of the shelving. There's the charge controller. I want to drill holes right here for the cables to go through. This is going to be my battery monitor. I need to get a jigsaw so I can cut that out. At first I was going to attach it on top and just drill a hole for the cable, but it's meant to be a drop-in, so I want to get a jigsaw and drop that in. And then we have holes for our 12-volt slots. I'm actually not going to put an inverter on this, and I'll explain why later. But yeah, that's the plan so far. Alright, I have the jigsaw and the drill for the holes. So I'm going to take this off for a minute, just so we can get some of these other holes drilled. That's my cheat. Hi.
Alright. Trying to figure out what you're making there.
It's just a little plate that I'm gonna put a solar controller on. And I couldn't figure out how to get the jigsaw to not look like crap when it turned, so I gave myself one space for that.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
And then whole saw's there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the prettiest thing ever, but
Make a sweep and then come back.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
When you're here, come in here like this.
Oh, okay.
And then come back. No, you got it.
Oh, okay.
Come in earlier. We don't make such a hard turn.
Well, now I'm trying to get...
I'm sorry to be minding your business.
No, it's actually because I was I've never used the jigsaw before. I've used other tools, but I've just never used the
jigsaw. Every time you feel like it's bind back up a little bit and it'll clear its way out.
Alright, so here's the back. This is the battery monitor. The cord to this is actually way too long since my battery is going to be all the way down here. Once I get it, those are on their way. This is a battery maintainer. And instead of connecting to the alternator, what I'm doing with the battery maintainer is I am also running it to a power source, and it just has a regular standard 110 plug, and that's going to go to the car's inverter that kicks on when the car is on. And so then this battery maintainer will also be able to feed the battery, and it's an alternative to hooking things up to the alternator because I don't know how to do that. This is all, it's extra cable. This is the little box that goes to these two little USB ports that are going to power my lights. And then down here we have the fuse block. Right now I have 2 of my 3 little 12-volt ports hooked to the fuse block. I have a third one where the O-rings are just too big, and so I need smaller O-rings. And so I'm going to have to recrimp these cables, which I'm a little nervous about. But I have to do that before I can also add these to the fuse block, because the O-rings are just, they're too big. And so, yeah, they're going to have to be replaced. But otherwise, yeah, that's where we are on the back end of the system right now. All right, so this is the view from the inside. There is the controller. Now, from right here, you can just see the front of it, so I'd be able to reach it and just, like, hit the buttons, because I'm holding the camera stick right now. It doesn't look like it, but, you know, I'd be able to reach over this basket, hit my buttons, see where my solar is. And then I have my battery monitor. Now, the problem with that battery monitor is the cable is really, really short. So I'm unsure if I'm going to leave it there. After I learned how to use a jigsaw just to cut that hole, I am unsure if I'm going to leave it there. That's my ideal place, just to have sort of 2 different things going on, giving me information about the battery. But I may need to put it like in the back somewhere, which will make me sad, because again, I learned how to use a jigsaw just to cut that hole and put that battery monitor there. I could have paid a little more and got like a Bluetooth one, and then I only would have had to look at my phone, but I didn't. I also like that one because it has like a temp sensor on it. But it's only useful to me if I can see it from inside the van, and the cable's so short, I would literally have to have it less than a foot from the battery. So I'm on the fence about this battery monitor sort of serving the function I'd like it to. And then, of course, I have my 3 12-volt ports. 2 of these are already hooked into the fuse box. The other one isn't. So really, all this is waiting for to be completed is the battery. I have a 4th 12-volt port that is for my fridge, which I'm going to be replacing this. But this is all I have for now, but it's also not running. Like, I haven't used it since I bought it. It's basically been a giant waste of money. And somebody was like, get it off the wall. There's actually space back here. It's not right up on the wall. There's space. There's some wood back there leaning on it right now, but like literally there's like, I can put my hand behind this thing. It's not up against a flat surface. There's room back there for the fans and everything. And it's actually sitting out further than this cabinet by a little bit. So even if it was on, it has space to run. But yeah, so that's all set up and just waiting for me to get a battery. It's also not hooked to the solar panel because I don't have the MC4 crimpers yet. I also need to recrimp one of my 12-volt over there. I bought 2 different brands, and one of them has basically O-rings that are too big for the fuse box I have, so those are going to be replaced. Eventually this is going to be plugged into one of those 12-volt ports, and that is how I'm going to be powering AC electronics on the rare time that I need them. My plan is to use DC as much as possible because it'll just take away from some of the consumption costs of AC. And my system is so small, I've probably overfused it, but overprotection is better than underprotection, I think. So one thing I sometimes miss about a regular house is just the ability to like work at a table. I just installed my first MC4 connector. So this is Crimping with Dawn. So we're going to do the other cable that I need for my solar system. Just to say it, I also crimped. This is the cable to my battery tester that I bought. And so I used one of these guys with heat shrink already installed on it. It was basically from this. Because I just had bare wire and no way to connect it to the battery. So I added these guys on here so that I could hook my battery tester to my system. And when we get that far, then, you know, you'll see more about the battery tester. But this is the cable. This plugs into the back of the tester. This is a temperature gauge, and then we have our positive and negatives, you know, general stuff. So basically I need cable that's going to go from the solar panel to the charge controller, and that's what this is for. I have a crimping tool. This also is a crimping tool, so there's crimpers in here, and that's actually what I used for this. They're actual crimpers. They're actually color-coded a little bit, and it's a wire strip on top, which I used for the first time, which is a easier thing to use for some situations than this. But actually this wire stripper was much better for this cable than this was. This was doing it, but it was giving it a really sloppy, ugly crimp. So it's really, I think it'd be better on smaller cables than this one. I don't even know what gauge is this cable. 6, I think. This is the cable that came with the solar panel. I'm so wrong. This is 12. I think. Yep, it says 12 AUG. And this is, God knows, micro, tiny, super tiny. I don't know. Itty bitty. I don't know. I still don't really understand cable sizes, but because this size came with my solar panel, that's what I'm going to use. There was no choice involved. That's one of the things I liked about the kit. It reduced some of the choices I had to make stumbling through this as a first timer. So I've seen videos where people put this. So like I said, I've already put one connector on. I'm about to put on the female connector, which has the male part. It's weird things. But when you unscrew these things, you have this rubber thing down in there, and the butt of this thing, and you can put it on after you do the crimping, but sometimes that's hard to do. Sometimes they're really hard to wiggle on after, so I'm going to put it on now. And then my male connector is, I don't know how well you can see it, but the wire is just enough to get past this little thing and go a little bit in here. It doesn't need to be all the way up in there from what I understand. It really just needs to get crimped here, because that's the most important thing, is the crimping right here. It was exposed wire to about here when I got the cable, and I brought it back to about here. Alright, and somebody's gonna see this video and tell me I'm doing it wrong. That's okay. I'm open to learning. Alright. So I had a lot of trouble holding this in the crimper the first time, and also figuring out how the heck to put it in here. See? There's this really deep side. This is the side that's gonna fold your crimp. So this little shallow side, and that's where the crimper has to rest. I mean, sorry, the connector has the rest for the crimp, which can be a pain in the butt to do. So last time what I did was I held it pretty tight, not tight enough to crimp it. And I pushed this in here so that the cable part that's not exposed is sort of resting at the bottom of the metal. And I pulled as hard as I can. And it actually locks in place when it's down there good. And so I open it up. Oh, it doesn't want to open. What did I do? I did something wrong. Release. There we go. And so there's my crimp. Can you even see it? It's hard to film videos like this. It's on there pretty tight. That's not coming off of there. There we go. You see it? There we go. That's my crimp. Alright. So now I'm going to take this and I put it down until I hear it snap. And you'll hear it like snap into place. And you'll feel that it doesn't want to come back off. And it snaps into place. So then all you have to do is close everything back up again. And then with your crimper, you'll likely get these two tools. This is to help you take apart MC4 connectors once they're connected. But mostly it's for the little wrench thing. we go. Alright, so this is the one I did earlier. In a perfect world, I should be able to slide these onto each other. And bam, they make a connection. I have no idea how to test if I did the right thing by these cables. I haven't cut it the length of cable I want yet. I just did it on the opposite ends to make it easier. Then I'm gonna actually run the cable from the solar panel into the van so that I cut that length based on that. But I wanted to get this done today. Alright, so let's try this thing. That's great. I wanted to get this done today while I was here, because the only way I'm going to get this done is over many days in small steps. And so there we go. So yeah, basically took the spool of cable I got from my Windy Nation kit. I did ends on the opposite ends, and then I'm basically going to cut a length of cable coming from each end the right length, which is the opposite way to do it. Ideally, you've already cut your cable to length, and then you put your connector on the end, but it should work no matter what. So I don't mind. I bought my crimping stuff to work today, and as soon as the show was over, I sat down and I did the thing. Like I said, I also put on the connectors for my battery monitor, which would give me a chance to test the batteries if it gets the signal. Alright, time to get out of here. Basically, friends, I have two 100 amp hour Mighty Max batteries I'm going to be installing. It's going to be way too hard to do this and show you what I'm doing. Also, I'm losing sunlight, so I am going to talk you through what I did after it's done. But basically, these two batteries are going to get installed in this mess right here. And hopefully it'll work. The first step was connecting the batteries in parallel. After that, I connected all of the negative and positive cables that I needed to run to the battery. Unfortunately, the battery monitor did have to sit on top. Unfortunately, it got too dark to show it, but I did run the solar panel to the charge controller. Did you find the information in this video useful? Well, the best way to help me continue to grow is to like, comment, and if you want notifications about future videos, please subscribe. You can also join us on Patreon and follow me on Instagram. Looking forward to the next time I hang out with you.